Fight Club is an exciting art piece that roots itself within the viewer's subconscious. While no movie exactly replicates the feeling one receives from watching Fight Club, there's a whole genre of movies in a related vein. The genre of film is a bit hard to define through a title, but I would call it more like psychoanalytical interpersonal thrillers. Fight Club, among other movies, attempts to root itself within the deeper parts of your mind, digging farther as the plot evolves. This type of art aims to comment on your deepest fears and secrets by exploiting techniques that confuse you into assuming reality is as it appears when it really is not. One movie that reminded me of Fight Club through symbolism and plot twist was Gone Girl, which is a more recent movie. This movie unsurprisingly evokes similar critical expansions of the mind to Fight Club, in large part because David Fincher directed both films. Just as Fight Club deceives the viewer into thinking Tyler Durden exists, Gone Girl leads you into believing that Nick, the husband in the movie, kills his innocent wife, when in fact, his wife is not dead at all, and frame Nick as her killer to escape her domestic life. Learning that Amy, the wife, is much more sinister than the movie had led us to believe makes the viewer replay prior scenes in the film through an entirely different perspective. Fight Club is notorious for doing a similar thing, being known as a movie begging for multiple viewings. Gone Girl is full of characters that live highly immoral lives, reminiscent of Fight Club's characters. To me, both movies attempt to reach the viewer's id by appealing to the deep subconscious human desires such as sex, violence, and blood. It is hard to make art that can connect that deep with your mind. And that is why I think movies like Fight Club stay relevant for decades after release, because they're still relevant. To comment on your second question, I almost always err on the side of doubt when debating the effects of movies, such as Fight Club. I do not think the violence had a discernible difference in people, because it's nearly impossible to prove that. This is a correlational relationship at best, rather than a causation, meaning that Fight Club may have come at a time when America trended toward more violence, but it did not cause the societal shift in a noticeable manner itself. How can we say that Fight Club caused a negative impact on society without making massive leaps in our rationale? To say that Fight Club negatively impacted society discredits the human ability to separate art from reality. Humans are much better at this skill than some believe. For the most part, people do not radically adjust their behaviors in response to a single piece of art, like a movie such as Fight Club. The people that would react strongly to movies like this most often have an underlying cause for that, such as a mental disorder. Those people with underlying causes that cause them to react strongly cannot blame the entity or movie for which they respond to. Instead, they must blame their own adverse reactions in response to what they are exposed to. As for the second part of your question, I'm also cautious about saying bluntly that the violence in movies today is worse than in the past. While I do think there may be more movies with violence in them, I also think there are generally just more movies being made as well. Plus, it is relevant to consider the progress in technology that enables movie makers to emulate violence quicker and more realistically. With this new ability to create violence on a grand scale, it's hard to resist the urge to incorporate violence into a movie because violence is naturally alluring for viewers. Humans are often drawn to violence and are entertained by depiction of it on screen. In a way, it's almost just fan service for the movie to makers to add violence, and I don't think that's such a bad thing.